ride, teach, inspire. This is the Dropping Next podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Association of Snowboard Instructors. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dropping Next podcast. I'm Rob Whelan, Cassie's Communications and Engagement Manager, and I'm joined here in our digital studio with Executive Director Jeff Chandler and the Program Manager for the Quebec and Atlantic region, Luc Bélanger. How's it going, guys?
Going well.
Thumbs
Thanks for having us.
So our topic of discussion today is something that has changed recently, which is the minimum age to get on the level 1 course. And so we're going to start with that, and then we're going to evolve the conversation into making a career out of teaching snowboarding. Let's start things off. What is the new age minimum for the level 1 course?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, over the past summer, we did make a change to our level 1 course. The new age minimum is 14, so we went from 15 years of age to 14 to enter the world of teaching snowboarding. And along with that, we also created a new minimum age for the level 2 certification, which is 16 years of age. So for quite a number of years, we were at 15. Made the decision over this last summer to drop that to 14 years.
So I was 16 when I did my level 1. How old were you two when you did the level 1? Do you remember?
I think I was a late bloomer. I was 20 when I did my level 1, or almost 20, like 19 years old. So that's when I did mine. But I do remember you saying like it used to be 16 years old was the minimum age. Like when I first did mine, I sort of remember that. Then level 2 was 18 years old back in the day. So it has times have changed and evolved, and the industry is we're trying to respond to what the industry needs and wants. Like really.
Nice. That's where I was kind of going with that. I couldn't remember if it was 16 at one point. Like obviously it's been 15 for some time, but I couldn't remember if it started out at 16.
It was 16 for a long time, but I actually snuck in there before the 16 rule. So I did my level 1 when I was 14. Back before I did my level 1 under the Canada Snowboard Federation days. And I think back then, I don't know that there was an age requirement, because I took my level 1 as a 14-year-old and then promptly got denied for a job because he had to be 16 to work back in those days. And then Cassie was formed. I think the early guidelines were, well, that was when probably they implemented the 16-year-old minimum. And I do remember the 18 minimum for the level 2 certification back when Cassie only had 2 levels. I think the thinking was that you needed to be 18 to be a level 2 because of the angle of teaching a level 1 certification. And that was sort of slowly dropped over the years. But started with, I think, no age and then went into 16.
Cool. So Jeff, maybe you could touch a little bit on the rationale for the change, bringing in younger folks to do the level 1.
Yeah, there was a few different kind of discussion points there. I mean, logistically or technically, I guess we were kind of the odd one out a little bit when it came to other associations. And so, for example, to become a ski instructor for the last number of years, you could be 14. Obviously, we are here to serve the schools and the resorts, and so we definitely heard that it created some, I would call it kind of like awkwardness in the industry, where if you had a 14-year-old who was looking to become an instructor, they could do it on the ski side, but on the snowboard side, you had to wait another year. So there was a little bit of an element of just sort of bringing us in line with other associations for sure, and creating some simplicity when it comes to snow schools and management, resort managers and that type of thing, and parents out there as well. But really, I think in the larger sense, it's about recognizing that there's some value to having someone enter into the world of instructing sooner, and extending out that window of building skill, accessing the world of teaching in whatever capacity a 14-year-old might be teaching in, but getting into that sooner from an association perspective and from an industry perspective has some benefits. I think that's the big thing.
Totally. Yeah. I think there's this like side benefit of, we talk about soft skills. Personally, I've gotten a lot out of teaching snowboarding that served me in my professional life. So we have snowboarding to thank for that. So I think it's kind of cool that we're giving that opportunity to the youth.
Yeah, there's lots of good opportunity, but the real reason was really for Jeff to say yes, to get me off his back, because I've been poking at it for multiple seasons. Come on, Jeff, can we do this, please? Coming from like a snow school director background, just like the convenience of having everybody starting at the same age, and not have the, well, you got to wait another year, this and that. Like, so it certainly makes everybody's life like a little bit easier that way.
Yeah, and we heard it from snow school directors, and there was also an angle to this of, were we losing potential members as a snowboard organization to kids who were ready to get into teaching, and because the option wasn't there, they opted to teach skiing.
Yeah.
And we all kind of know, like, there's a cost from the parent's perspective, there's a cost to these certifications. And if I can think with my own kids, if I sort of choose a route, whether it's ski or snowboard, the chances of switching routes are probably, for some families, pretty slim, or adding a second certification. So there was an angle there.
And there's a lot of families as well, like my family, not unlike mine, like my kids started on skis, like they still do both, like at this time, because mom skis and dad skis and snowboards. Like there's a lot of them that started out on skis, switched to snowboard. So when it comes to like 14, they're like, oh, they can be an instructor. It's like, oh, you can't do your level 1 snowboard. And those that could ski, right, like would go, it's like, well, I'm going to go do my level 1 ski. And like, I think we discovered like with a few places that they were telling us, like, I'm losing them because if they go to ski this year, I'm losing them forever. Yeah. They're not going to go and do the other course next year. So I think like we, we're faced with that situation as well. So to your point of like, potential members that we were missing out on, like, so it's really neat to see, and it's got some positive effects on the numbers, like in Quebec, like at this time. I have to think that's playing in the balance. Numbers are looking pretty good.
You just segued perfectly into a question I was going to ask there, Luc, was like, obviously, well, not obviously, we're recording this pre-season, but by the time it hits the airwaves, we'll be into some level 1 courses already. But I was just wondering if from the program manager side, you want to speak to some trends that you're seeing already.
Yeah, like we're seeing some, nationwide, we're seeing like a really good trend, like year over year, like our numbers are up, and it's no different story for Quebec, which is great. Like without running the stats, like just isolating just like maybe the French courses versus the English courses or whatnot, which is the bulk of my level 1 are on the French side. I think I'm seeing some positive. I'm seeing courses run this year in places where they haven't run in many years, right? It's looking good. Let's just say that, because there's still some time here, and people tend to be come late to like get the ticket, like a little bit. But it's anecdotal what I'm telling you right now. But it's like it feels like it's like there's a good really enthusiasm around that, and around like the various like resort support programs that we have, like that one being included in one of them.
And do you think those numbers are because of the age change, or is it a factor?
I think it contributes for sure, no question. Like, I think it's going to affect numbers like nationwide. It's like you open up the pool to like everybody, how many people are 14 in Canada this year? That'd be a good stat to pull. It's like that basin, like, I don't know, 1 million people you have access to in a way that can purchase your product. It certainly has the potential to affect the numbers in a positive way. Mind you, we're already sold out in many places, so it might be a game of like, who gets there first, but I think that for some places where we were just on the edge of having enough people to run courses, then that helps getting that over like the barrier. Let's say you got 3 people. Ideally, we try to have 4 to run a course to make it like viable or close to. So that'll definitely help like those kind of further regions, I'm going to say, are going to benefit from that. Then we're going to see an uptake.
So maturity at 14 can vary like wildly. Well, I guess it can at any age, but like like some 14-year-olds are like kids, and some are kind of more mentally developed, I guess we'll say. What 14-year-old is taking this course?
Yeah, I'm chuckling because I'm going to quote like one of our colleagues, Adam Gardner, program manager out west, who said there's some 14-year-olds that I would trust with my life and some 40-year-olds I wouldn't trust with chopsticks. So it's that line always makes me laugh, but yeah, that's I don't know. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I'm just thinking like in the process of kind of weighing our options and making this change, we did a lot of outreach to the industry and to the resorts to see whether this was something that would help their operation. And it was interesting to me how it was very like it sort of followed pockets in the country, as Luc sort of said. Some of the more remote places that have a less access to potential staff, definitely were like, thumbs up, like let's do it. That's going to help us recruit instructors. We've heard it from already this fall. We've heard it from some of the small locations as well, that they've had really good success with 14-year-olds already helping out in their schools. And even outside of the snow school environment, I had a conversation with someone at a recent industry event, and she said that last year they had a 14-year-old working in their rental shop who she thought could have managed the whole place. And they were such a good employee, and was kind of outperforming a lot of the 24-year-olds and 20-year-olds that they were working with. But I think the big thing is that it's very sort of like I said, the pockets of the country will really benefit from this and will hire the 14-year-olds. Some areas won't. Like a lot of the destination resorts, for example, probably aren't hiring 14-year-olds anyway. It's the small local, more remote locations that need the help in recruiting instructors and expanding that time out. And it's important to remember, from our perspective as an association, we certify and we train. It's the resorts that do the interviewing and the hiring. And so, if a resort as a private business decides they have no interest in hiring a 14-year-old as an instructor, then that's totally up to them to go through. And we provide the training around teaching snowboarding, but they have to do the interview and determining if that person is suitable overall. And as we've said, there's 14-year-olds out there that are 100% suitable to work in this field, and there probably are a bunch that aren't. So yeah, it's really up to the resort and the location to determine what works for their business.
Nice. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds this season. I'm looking forward to hopefully having a 14-year-old candidate in a course this winter, and kind of seeing the effects of it all. So it's pretty interesting times. So building on that, we'd mentioned it briefly before. So with this age change with the level 1, we had to implement, or decided to implement, a minimum age of 16 for the level 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a recognition of the role that a typical level 2 would be asked to take on at the resort level. And generally, by the time someone gets that level 2 certification, they're being asked to, kind of expand their reach, whether it's in terms of terrain availability and where they're able to take students, or what type of lessons they're able to take. So yeah, part of the decision of going to 14 for level 1 was that, maybe it would be beneficial to create that new minimum, or bring back a minimum for level 2. And it's really just a recognition of that kind of risk management side of the job that a level 2 will be asked to do. I mean, we were the entry level minimum age for level 1 was 15 for a number of years. In practice, I don't know that we would have had a lot of people under 16 taking the level 2 anyway, historically. But for now, it's a requirement. Yeah, and it's really based around that kind of the job duties that we would expect a level 2 to be put in at their place of employment. So.
And on the requirement side of the level 2, right, like our recommendation, correct me if I'm wrong here, Jeff, but I believe we still recommend like 150 hours of teaching before attempting your level 2 course, and there's a real reason to that, and you start working as a 14-year-old, like to work like 150 hours. It's at least a couple seasons, like if you work every weekend for 10 weeks or whatever, like that, you probably won't even get 1 to 150, but you'll definitely be closer, and you'll definitely be in a better position to be successful on the level 2 course. And yeah, taking at a destination resort and taking people in bigger terrain and more challenging stuff, and you spend the whole day with them, you're going to have lunch with them, all that kind of stuff, like having a few more years under your belt and of maturity and experience, will certainly, it'll just be a more comfortable environment to be in, generally speaking.
I think we're ready to move on to our next topic. But before we do it, I thought we should give everybody a little brain break. I don't know what they call this part of the show. Quick
palate
hits.
Cleanser.
Yeah, palate cleanser. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I've got three questions for you each to answer. So first board, since we're talking about way back.
First snowboard?
Yeah.
Oh, Black Snow Legend.
Nice. Metal Edges?
Yeah.
Nope.
It's the Legend SE. That one had edges. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
My first board was an Original Sin. And I don't even remember the name of the model. It was sort of the tiger stripe one, and it had those big kick a tip and tail, so it was meant to you just cut it and shape it to like exactly the way that you want it, you know. Like, that was the idea behind it. Like it was made to be cut and shaped, which I never did. I just rocked the whole thing like with the big tip and tail for like a couple seasons with the Burton 5 screw. Like screwed right into the board. Like once you're set, you're set. Goofy or regular, can't change your mind after that.
I forgot about people cutting their tips and tails back in the day. That's awesome.
That was it. That was it back then.
I was on a Burton Amp 150 plate binder.
That's a race board, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's an Alpine like hard boot board. I wouldn't call it a race board.
Wasn't AMP like All Mountain Performance or something like that? It was like
that's
what the acronym.
That sounds right.
I think so.
And then there was the Alp as well. Like, wasn't there? Like
that was my second board.
That's your second board. Yeah, there you go. I wrote a few of those. Yeah.
I wonder what ALP stood for.
Okay, next question.
That's you on the next show with that one. Yeah.
Go-to pocket snack.
Bacon for sure.
Pocket bacon. Nice.
My kids make fun of me because it's either a bacon or a hard-boiled egg, and I crack it on their helmet on the chairlift to get it open.
I'm gonna start doing that. Like that's breakfast on the go. I love that, bacon and eggs. Usually a boring like granola bar, like the mini Cliff bars there. Love those. Like one in each pocket. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. Good.
It works until it freezes and you can't bite it.
Yeah, well, I keep it close to my heart, you know, keep it warm. So when I bring it out, like it's okay. It's not like these old power bars that it would just actually like really hard, like dangerous for your teeth.
Yeah, I'm lame too, just granola bars. I normally have like a package of like gummy bears or something in my pocket because like that's sometimes the only way to get the kids to do another run or to get them to stop whining on the chairlift. So yeah,
good for you too, though.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what are you psyched for this season? Last question before we move on.
Psyched for this season. I got new boards, so always psyched for that. But just like just generally, like I find myself like more motivated for the season ahead this year than I've been in a few years. So just like really excited to be on snow very soon, which will be next week, as the time of that this is recorded. So yeah, just psyched for snow, honestly, like all of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm just excited to get back at it, and it's always amazing to me that after whatever 30 some years of doing this, that we could still be excited about doing it again when the winter rolls around, or getting back on the chairlift. And so yeah, I'm just at this point of the year, I'm excited just to get back out and get the boots on again.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. Okay, so carrying on here. So making a career in snowboarding. So this came up at the open forum portion of the AGM, and obviously we didn't have a ton of time to talk about it, but I thought it would be a cool thing to unpack, and it's something that a lot of people wonder about is, you know, how can I make a career out of teaching snowboarding? Because some people do and do well with it.
Not easy, I would say. It's
hundreds of dollars. That's the line. Hundreds. Yeah.
Like our friend and colleague Stu Bott said years and years ago, he's been teaching snowboarding for many, many years and made hundreds and hundreds of dollars doing it. So yeah, it's a tough, it can be a tough gig for sure. No doubt about that. Yeah. There's easier ways to make more money, I guess, but it's a good one if you can make it work.
Yeah. Well, the first step is if if making money is like in your top 3, like somewhere, if you want to make like having lots of money to buy lots of things and like whatever, like then this isn't really a good idea, like in terms of like this line of work. Like you can make a living, and just like and the things that the working in this industry, like the perks and the things that come with that, like is interesting is not the right word. Like it's attractive. Like there are perks like there that are not to be looked over, that like I've been around the world like teaching snowboarding, and like you know what I mean, or I could be a successful lawyer and go to Switzerland once a year. Like it's but like someone took me there for free, so it's a different thing. But the first thing to get out of the way is definitely like it's not a highly lucrative thing, but you can get to like a stable, like us right here. Like, I mean, like we're all working in the industry, and like we're feeding, like we all have like a family and kids and things like that, like, and we also, most of us also have like a side gig too, right? Like, which is a little bit of working in this industry, it's a lot about like having like sometimes a second job to allow you to do this like a bit full time. But anyway, like that's kind of the downer part, like of it there. But
Yeah, for sure. It's not an easy career path, but some people do it, and I think that as an association, we want to encourage people to go for it if that's what they want to do, right? Like, so I guess, what are some pathways that people can find success with? Like maybe it's continuing education, or maybe it's, moving to like supervisor type roles, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, and I think of the full-time instructors that have been doing it for, like a decade or more and are making it happen. I think the common thing is that you need to be able to kind of generate your own business a little bit. There's definitely a sales angle there to, and a lot of these individuals aren't the most highly certified. They're probably not the best rider on the mountain, but they are really good teachers that can really connect with people, and they know how to sell their services. And ultimately, when you get to, when to be doing this for a long time, the burnout of being on the big magic carpet all the time and teaching groups is real. And so you need to sort of take control of your own earning potential a little bit by building a clientele, putting yourself in a location where you have a return clientele, and maybe where the pay structure works well for you, and a spot where you can, determine your success a little bit. I would say that's a big one. From the people that I've seen, that's a real common skill, and not everybody has that skill to sort of sell their own services in a non-sleazy, non-car salesman way, right? In a truly valuable way.
yeah, yeah, and the same goes for, you want to sell yourself to the clientele, and you want them to want to go snowboarding with you and learn from you. Same can be said for your employers, like, the people employing you, like, you want them to want you to be successful, and that's where a lot of opportunity comes from there, right? Like, and it's as snowboarders, we can be like generally labeled as a bit anti-establishment and things like that, and like, like just a stereotype that come with like snowboard instructor employees, and a bit of a ragged look and things like that. But that's all superficial, like if you do a good job on snow with the people, like that really shines through, and people can see that, and they'll want more of that. The learning area burnout is definitely real. I totally agree with that statement. However, it's a means to an end, right? Like, it's to someone asked me recently that question again. It's like, how do I make it? It's like the number one thing. It's you got to get the reps up. You got to teach a lot. Like it's kind of 5 years full time teaching at Big White or Sunshine Village, long seasons, and you do beginner lessons, discovery snowboarding twice a day, 5 days a week, because the bulk of the lesson, that's the thing too. And in skiing is the same too. It's that you'll get 80 to 90% of your lesson are beginners. Like the beginner program, the entry level program, that's the vast majority of the people that walk through the door looking for instruction. Same thing on the kids side. Like they're there because they need, excuse me, they need help learning how to do it. They don't know how to do it. So that's the majority of it. So just I've seen too often people is like, oh, I did one season full time, and now it's like I'm ready for a supervisor job. And you might, like some people are just really good like that. But there's no way around, like, working on your craft. It's kind of like we're not woodworkers, of course, but it's like, the woodworker, like imagine how good he is after the 10,000 hours or the 5 years of woodworking, 40 hours, 50 hours a week, right? Way better than year one, right? Like, and again, that's how you can get good and build like a really good foundation to, like, that you can climb on, whether you keep teaching full time, or whether you go into more supervisor and management stuff, like that's always going to be something that's going to be important to have, is that foundation and knowing the work that's being done out there, and how you can coach your staff to be better at this work and provide a better experience. And like, you might not have the person with the most experience, but you have enough that you can speak to it intelligently, right? Like be knowledgeable about it. Like it's very important. So don't try to skip that. That's the hard part. It's the work in the trenches at $17 an hour to start. That's the tough one to survive. And that's where you need that second job as like a waiter, or like, I tune skis in a shop at night, like 5 nights a week, like, or things like that to like get through and like keep the dream alive and things like that. So it's, yeah.
Well, and I think that's hugely valuable advice. Like this concept of kind of rushing to the journeyman status is really common, and everybody wants to I don't know, be on full-time privates at Whistler Blackcomb or something after a year of teaching. And we see it on the certification side from the CASI perspective. We see it when somebody has those hours and has spent those years. I mean, I think of it seems like a lot of years that I spent on what was a rope tow at COP back in the day, teaching all kinds of different groups, all kinds of different students, mostly in the beginner sort of ranges. And so taking that time to build that foundation is hugely valuable. And I would argue that there's places around the country or even around the world where it's easier to build those reps. And if you go work at the local places, the small local hills where, they sort of have a bit of a reputation as being more of a factory, but that's really going to serve you well down the road. If you're in this for the long haul, it's worth your while to spend those, 3, 4, 5 seasons just doing, back-to-back beginner lessons in what would maybe be a bit of a challenging environment, because you're going to build those skills. And when we see people show up, say at the level 3 certification or even at the level 4, it's always really evident when somebody has worked for a long time as an actual instructor, and when somebody has sort of fast-tracked themselves to trying to get, to those higher levels. And so, yeah, don't forget about the smaller locations, the smaller resorts, the smaller schools, I would say.
Very good tip. This reminds me of a quote that I heard a long time ago. Ace Jarvis, the guy who started Creative Live, said, he's not an overnight success, 10-year overnight success or something like that. I'm butchering it, but the concept of like he worked at it really hard for a long time and then became successful. We only see the success, right? You don't see somebody's path. So I think it's kind of cool to point that out and encourage people to put in your time, because that's
and we're making it sound like it's really tough, like, and it is, there's tough days, like you're teaching snowboarding, like, but I mean, the journey is so fun, like that's when you're working full time, you're making friends for life in snow school, you're shooting the shit in the program at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, and like, it's, you don't have kids yet, and like you're out there, it's like all that matters is like, I get a paycheck, I'm gonna go and like, have a couple drinks, have fun, like whatever, like those times are really, it's like it's really fun. Like those are the years that I look back on the most, like where we had the most like raw fun. Like that's during that time, and then you're learning at the same time. So yeah, there's some days it's -25 and you don't feel like to be out there for 6 hours. That's part of the game too, like, but you're still snowboarding and you're still like working in a recreational environment with people that want to be there. Like, like it's people are on vacation or they're just like there. No one forced them to come snowboarding. That's very rare. So, it's a privilege to.
And if you're starting at 14, you got all those extra years now to build up those reps. And
right.
We started this by talking about why the age drop and some of the side benefits to that, and the soft skills that you build along the way in those early years. So I think that you both just kind of spoke to that again. So it kind of reinforces that it's more than just teaching snowboarding.
Yeah, that's it. And the 14-year-old coming in and like, please, hopefully everybody listening to this, don't take offense to this. It's like the COVID kids, like a little bit like they went through COVID and like the isolation and the less social. And you're speaking to that, Rob, like with the screen generation. Like, I mean, God knows the battle with my oldest in my house, and like at times to just engage with each other, like this is real life. Like, the screen is not real, or the video, same can be said for the video game generation or whatnot, like that I've heard before. So 100%, like the time that, go out there and like, just interact with people for real, like it's very important. Like the earlier we can expose them to that, like the more successful they're going to be in life, like later on. Just a point blank, like I think.
Yeah, and I think, going back to my original point, the instructors that make it the career and make it over the long haul are the ones that people want to snowboard with.
Hmm.
And it may not necessarily be about their technical skill or their demonstrations. It's about how well they connect with them on the chairlift, and how they create an experience or a
Yeah,
vacation for those
yeah,
people that really stands out.
yeah,
And I know of numerous instructors who have, people that come from all over the world and book them every year. And it's not always because they teach them the best lessons. They have a great time, but it's about, they want to hang out with that person,
yeah,
or
yeah.
they want the recommendations on where to go for lunch, or the kind of the insider angle of being with a local, and it's all about connecting with those clients for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I have my example I use of that is, and you know him well, Jeff, like Daniel Brito at Sunshine Village, like he was just he provided you with a good experience. Like, I don't know if he still teaches full time anymore, but he did for like a long, long time, ski and snowboard. And he was an example of like, who's this guy? He's never talking about snowboarding, but man, everybody's having a great time. They all want to hang out with him, like, so it's like, it makes you pause. It's not about being the best snowboarder. It's about to be like the best, like entertainer, or the best guide, or the best experience creator. Like what you want, it has lots of titles.
So from a practical side, this is a winter recreational endeavor, right? And if you're going to be full time, well, you can't do that in the summer if you live in Canada. So we have people who go to the Southern Hemisphere. We have people teaching in domes in China. And then on the flip side, we have, people teaching tennis all summer or mountain biking. So maybe
Yeah.
a couple of, practical tidbits there that you want to speak to.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've always I felt it when I'm fairly far removed from your average instructor world these days in terms of full-time, teaching snowboarding, sitting here in front of my cushy laptop, and I'm a little more office based. But one of the things that I really realized early on, and I've mentioned it to quite a few people, is you got to find that that complementary off season activity or support or off season gig. So whether that's teaching in the Southern Hemisphere, if that works for you, it might even be, a good friend of ours, a national tech team member, Jamie Forbes, has been, he spent a lot of summers building docks on the lake here in the Okanagan, and that helped him to offset maybe the lesser earning in the winter, put away a bit of money so that when November rolled around, he could focus on teaching full time through the winter and not have the financial stress. But more and more, there are other ways to continue to develop your craft just without a snowboard on your feet, right? By, like you said, Rob, by teaching other activities. We know, like Adam Lowe out there, he's a golf pro, teaching golf pro, teaches a lot of people. You use all the same skills as from a teaching perspective. It's just that you're holding a club instead of standing on a snowboard.
Yeah, you just got to go and find your thing. Like, I mean, whatever works for you. Like for me, for many years, I worked at a golf course. I wasn't a pro. I just worked maintenance, right? No experience required. And then, excuse me, I learned on the fly. And it was kind of perfect where I lived in Canmore, Alberta, like close to Banff, where, the season sunshine would go right into May. We were busy with teaching right until like, after like Easter, but then the golf course would start mid-April, so they would overlap. So it would be like kind of perfect. And then get a bit of time off in the fall between the two. I had an 11-month out of the year job. Like I did that for like the whole time that I worked full time. And then I did some tree planting, which is thing to make a lot of money in a short amount of time. Or the odd construction gig when I first got to like Sunshine, like staining boards on a house. Like, like it's, if you really want that lifestyle and you want to do it, you got to make it happen. Like and some places it's a bit easier to make happen, and some other places you got to work for it a little bit. But yeah, it's a seasonal gig, and some people would, like our friend Chewy did that, like commercial fishing for many years, and he would stack the cash like for these months, right? And then he could just be like living a bit more on easy lane in the wintertime, teach here and there and no big pressure because his big bread earner was somewhere else, and that's how he funded the lifestyle. And now it's something else. And the more time you spend in it, like the more fair of a pay you're gonna make. Like that's like the more experience and things and courses you do, like you make more money and you gain more seniority and you get more like consistent work like throughout the winter. Anyway, like it's find your thing for the off season. If it's going to New Zealand or Australia or Argentina, whatever, keep teaching, or the Dome in China. Go for it if you can. I know I need a break, and I appreciate my break from the snow. And I've taught mountain biking. Now I work year round. I've worked year round in the industry for many years, but do a lot of work on the mountain bike side over the years. I'm a part-time coach. Like I coach paddling. Like I do some coaching on the ski side in the wintertime as well. So little gigs on the side that help us keep going. And at this point, the objective is to feed my family and not so much keep the dream alive. But it's doing both. Like by default, the dream is alive, and everybody gets fed.
I feel like there's like a lot of good take homes there. That's been an awesome conversation, and I feel like we could wrap it up here with do's and don'ts. And how about Jeff? You give us a do, and Luc, you give us a don't.
As far as extending your time or making this thing go?
Making it work.
Okay. Making it work as a career? That context? Okay, yeah.
Well, I would say do embrace the long-term nature of the process and avoid the temptation to fast track or rush it, which is easier said than done sometimes, for sure.
I would say don't get discouraged when things get hard. Because you can do hard things, and it's all going to be, when things are going well, it's all going to be sweeter by the end. But this is total cliche, but when things get hard, that's where you really learn, and that's the stuff that will really serve you well, like in the long run. And I know I can look back at it and anybody knowing me that probably didn't handle very well when things got really hard, at the time. But now it's like, man, yeah, I remember that time, and yep, I remember the lesson I got from this, and this and that. So don't get discouraged when things get hard,
Nice. Way to put the cherry on it, Luc. I like that. So in conclusion, I guess, if people have questions about this, where should they turn? Probably not Google. Snow schools, PMs.
You want to give out your number there, Rob? People can just call you.
No. Asking you the question.
Yeah. Well, it's an important question, and it sort of speaks to, extending your time is find some mentors, find a community, like find a support system, and that instructor in your pro room that you can just tell has been through it over the years, tap into those type of resources. Guaranteed that those individuals have been through those times where they've said, maybe this isn't worth it. And, I think finding your own support community, taking charge of your own kind of, mentoring, I guess is what it would be, is really important.
Yeah. It's like take charge of your own training, right? Like if you're going to go for a higher level, like at the end of the day, it ends with you. So take charge of it. But where to look? Yeah, there's no sites. There's more than ever. I think it's more accessible. But yeah, like look, as you're putting in the time and the hours and the reps, like, yeah, find that more senior instructor, just poke his brain about it, or just observe, just watch the little things, like that make a big difference. That first 5 minutes, that last 5 minutes with the clients, like says a lot about the experience of how to get people to come back or how to set up your lesson well, like things like that. So yeah, pay attention to that, and, reach out, find, who they are, like, on social or whatever. Now people are more available easier to find than ever, so just knock on the door, ask a question. Worst that's going to happen, it's going to be no, or a person's not going to answer. You're not any worse off.
Yeah, and from a Cassie perspective, we do have a mentorship program there, a new instructor mentorship program. It's all volunteer run, but it's people who have put up their hands and said, yeah, I'm willing to help someone newer in the game. So there are sort of more formal angles there as well that you can chase down.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Well, thanks guys. Thanks for chatting. We're at 43 minutes here, so that was an awesome conversation. Lots of good stuff for people to sink their teeth into. The show is new, but if you want to leave a review and you want to subscribe, that would be awesome. That's going to help us build this community. We are a membership-based organization, snowboarders for snowboarders by snowboarders. So your feedback on the show is going to help us make this thing better. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Right on. Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having us. Thank you for snowboarding.